Okay, so I'm going to break these notes into two different videos. The ones I'm going to start with is when an object will hit the ground or water. So at the top, hit the ground or water is when our height is equal to 0. Then the next part, it says, so we set our, you should fill in the blank there with equation equal to 0 as well. So our first question, Abigail tosses a coin off a bridge into a stream below. The distance in feet that the coin travels above the water is modeled by the equation y equals negative 16x squared plus 96x plus 112, where x represents the time traveled in seconds. At what time does the coin hit the water? So you got to think of this on an x and y axis. Okay, so we have our height. We're tossing it off. This 112 right here is our starting on the y-axis. So here we are. We're going to say that's at 112 feet. And we're tossing it off, and we're seeing the time that it takes to hit the water, which is going to be your x-axis. So all we're going to do there is solve for our zeros of the quadratic, which we learned to do by quadratic formula. So we have our original equation. I'm going to set that equal to 0 now, because 0 is my y value when I'm solving for the time that it hits my x-axis. So what we're going to do here is use our a, b, and c. So my a is what's in front of this x squared term. It's negative 16. Our b is 96, and our c is 112. So now we're going to take those values and we're going to plug them into the quadratic formula. So I have x is equal to opposite b, so it's negative 96, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 96 squared, minus 4 times your a value of negative 16 times your c value of 112 all over 2 times your a value. So like we learned how to solve for, we're going to use our calculator and we're going to type in our whole quadratic formula at one time. So I'm going to hit my n over d for my fraction button. And I'm going to type in negative 96. Then we have plus second square root, parentheses, 96 squared, minus 4 times negative 16 times 112, all over 2 times negative 16. Once I hit enter, I get x equals negative 1. Now I need to copy paste that to get my other solution. I went up, hit enter, use this left arrow in your calculator, scroll all the way back, and you have to change this plus sign to subtraction, enter, and we get x equals 7. So if you think about where it's landing, okay, you're going to reject one of these solutions, and you're going to reject negative 1 because it does not make sense that it would take negative 1 seconds to travel to hit the water. So think about it, reject your one solution, and your answer would be the coin will hit the water after 7 seconds. So this in my little picture right here would be my 7 seconds where it hits the water. Okay, now real quick, I'm going to do the next one as well. So we're going to talk about at a swim meet, Janet dives from a diving board that's 40 feet high. Her position above the water represented by the equation right here, where t represents the time in seconds, and h of t represents the height in feet. At what time does she hit the water? So again, here's my picture. So I'm starting at 40 feet, and I'm going to find at what point she hits the water. So I'm going to take my equation and set it equal to 0. So we're going to find our A is negative 16, our B is 24, and our C is 40. And we're going to plug those into the quadratic formula. So X is equal to opposite B, so negative 24, plus or minus the square root, B squared, minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times your A. So we're going to take that and plug it into our calculator. So we have our fraction button, negative 24 plus second square root. Trying to get it where you can see both. 24 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 40 all over 2 times negative 16. So you get x equals negative 1. Then we're going to copy paste it. Scroll all the way back using this left arrow. And we're going to change that to subtraction. 5 over 2, I'm going to go ahead and convert that with this double arrow button to 2.5. So again, I'm going to reject one of these solutions because I have to think about it in relationship to what we're solving for. It does not take negative 1 seconds to hit the water. That would not make sense. So 2.5 does make sense, which would be our solution. So Janet will reach the water in 2.5 seconds. And those are our two solutions for our notes. Okay, so we're going to start on the back of the notes. The first thing at the top, when will an object reach a specific height? So we're going to fill in these 3 blanks right here. So we want to find the time an object reaches a specific height. We set our equation equal to the desired height. So it's really important as we work these out to visualize what it's talking about. So I'm going to kind of start it off with a picture. So a ball is thrown straight up from 3 meters above the ground. With a velocity of 14 meters per second, the following equation represents the height of the ball traveled over time, where t represents time. At what time is the ball 13 feet off the ground? So if I think about this on a graph, okay, there's my x and y axis. This 3 is telling me where it's starting on my y-intercept. So looking, so let's say this is 5, 10, 15, 20. 3 feet, about right here. Okay, and then it's going to travel, and we're going to see at what point is the ball 13 feet off the ground. So we got to figure out at what time it will be 13 feet off the ground. So I have to set this quadratic set equal to that 13 feet. So I have negative 5t squared plus 15t plus 3 equals 13. So now I got to put it in standard form. So I got to get my constant 13. I got to subtract it over to the other side. So I have negative 5t squared plus 15t minus 10. now equals 0. Now I can find my a, b, and c, and we can plug that into our quadratic. So my a value is -5. My b value is 15. And my c value is -10. So here we have x is equal to opposite b. Remember, we're going to change that sign. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is -5, times c, which is -10, all over 2 times my a, which is -5. Okay, so now we're going to take our calculator and we're going to type in that entire quadratic here. So I'm going to hit n over d. Then I have -15 plus second square root 15 squared minus 4 times -5 times -10. Hit your down arrow, and then you have 2 times -5 in your denominator. So we get x is equal to 1. So that's one of my solutions. So now I need to find the other solution. So I'm going to scroll up, highlight, enter it down. I'm going to scroll back and change the sign. Now, if you don't have this calculator, you might just have to retype in the whole thing and change that plus to subtraction, and we get x equals 2. So if you think of it on a graph, my time is on my x. How far off the ground is on my y? So it's saying it would reach 13 feet, which is about right here at 1 and at 2 seconds. So would that make sense? Absolutely. So there's my quadratic. It's thrown from here. Now it can reach at both of these solutions, so I don't have to reject one this time because here's my 13 feet and it's reaching it at 1 second and at 2 seconds. So on the way up and then on the way down. So here, both of my solutions stand true. So the ball will be 13 feet off the ground at 1 and 2 seconds. Okay, so then the second part of the question here, will the ball reach 20 feet in the air? Explain. So now I need to take this original quadratic. Remember, 20 feet in the air is talking about the y. So I'm going to replace my y. So I have -5t squared plus 15t plus 3 is now equal to 20. So again, I got to get it in standard form, so I'm going to subtract over the 20. So I have -5t squared plus 15t minus 17 equals 0. So to reach 20 feet in the air, the best way I would do this is let's find the discriminant first to see how many solutions this quadratic will have. So I'm going to find my a, b, and c. -5, my b is 15, and my c is -17. So my discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So if I take my b times a, so I just replace my values into my discriminant, b squared minus 4 times a times my c. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to type in my discriminant into my calculator. So I have 15 squared minus 4 times my A is negative 5 times my C is negative 17. So I get negative 115. Now that is my discriminant. So what that means is if I work